All right, some sleepers here. I'll go first, just like I did last time. Mine are kind of grouped. I have five guys, but three of them are the same position, so count that as you will. First, Brian Robinson out of Alabama. The Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, need to add a running back this offseason. Need to. Just absolutely need to. And if they somehow land a sixth round comp pick for Melvin Ingram, which I guess is expected at this point, and they could somehow move that, if they can move that up, just like they did for Isaiah Loudermilk, and get a fifth round, I think Brian Robinson's got an opportunity to be there. I think this weekend either puts him way above where the Pittsburgh Steelers possibilities are for a running back or way below that. And I just don't expect him to test extremely well. I think he is exactly what we see on the film. I'm just kind of looking to solidify that here at the combine. That being said, I think when he's got the ball in his hands, a lot of people are going to see like, okay, this guy's shifty. He's good enough. Two, Desmond Ritter, you talked about him. I think he's going to test through the roof. I think it's going to be absolutely ridiculous, but we won't get too deep here on quarterbacks. Three, Damari Mathis out of Pitt, cornerback. Saw him at the Senior Bowl, loved him at the Senior Bowl. I think that he's very slept on because it's such a crowded cornerback class. I think he could play inside and outside, and I think he works drills, at least what I saw at the Senior Bowl. He works drills as well as any cornerback in the draft. I don't know how he's going to test, but I think that once people have an eye on him, once the camera's on those cornerbacks, this dude's going to start gaining a lot of attention. I don't know how high he moves up. I don't know where you have him on your list, but I think he's a dude that's going to surprise a lot of people. And I think he's only going to get better in the NFL. And then linebackers. I have three inside linebackers that I think are all middle of the pack here with the possibility of moving up or down. First, Quay Walker's out of Georgia. Not a huge fan of this guy. I think he played pretty terribly when you watch his film. That being said, I think he has all the physical attributes to make himself an NFL inside linebacker. He's got to test really well at the combine. Chad Mumma out of Wyoming. I've talked about him a couple of times. I think he's just right there. If the Steelers are going to have an eye on him, he could be that. He reminds me a lot of like Josie Jewell. Could be like a mid-round pick who just sneaks into a starter position real early in his career. And this next guy is the same way. Darian Beavers out of Cincinnati. He's a guy that a lot of people have turned me on to. I think he fits the mold right there with Mumma as guys that could come in here, start along Devin Bush without super high expectations and make this defense better. So those are I think I had six there. I believe there's six.
Yeah, so I'll give a couple examples. I don't want to group these two guys together for intentional reasons, but it is, I guess, kind of intentional. Sam Williams from Ole Miss and Ed Ingram from LSU. Both of those guys had big off the field concerns, charges that will have to be discussed, in interviews and stuff like that. There's going to be a lot of questions involved in those, but they're both really good players. Ingram's film is super solid as a guard. He can get out in space. He's a guy that just depletes people when he's pulling around the edge. Sam Williams, excellent burst off the edge, man. I mean, this dude can really, really rush the passer. When I watched him and Charles Cross, it was really interesting because he was on Cross's side a lot in the first half, and then I think they just said, why are we doing this? This is pointless. We're banging our head against the wall. Then they moved Williams to the other side, and Williams just started taking over. I mean, they couldn't block him. And they were trying to double him. They were trying to chip him with the tight end, with the running back. Didn't matter. They couldn't block the dude. So, and extremely, you talk about guys that have the potential to hit at edge on day three. And I think Williams, probably doesn't go, even though he's got the film to go a lot higher than that. I don't know if he goes that much higher than day three just because of those off-the-field questions. At receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, guy from Kentucky, kind of a gadget guy, but I think at Kentucky they did more with him down the field. He showed that he actually had a legit NFL translation, I think, at the position. The question, it's not a question, but the downside to Robinson, he's only 5'7". So that's definitely something that's going to hurt. Same with Calvin Austin. Those guys are going to test really well. They're going to run really fast, but they're really small. So they're going to slide down. A guy that I think is going to be a day 3 player probably just because of how deep the class is. I mean, he could sneak into day 2. I think he should. It's Khalil Shakir from Boise. I love this dude. I got turned on to him back in September, and then I started watching him live. He made a couple circus catches for touchdowns. He's an excellent player. He plays inside and outside. He's 5'11". He's good with the ball. You can scheme him touches. He's a hard dude to tackle. Good hands. I love his game. He's just really, really, really solid and can play early on. The cornerback position, I wouldn't call – I think a lot of people have woken up to Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
A lot of talk's been about Sauce Gardner, who's a great player in his own right. But, man, Kobe, I think excellent ball skills. I mean, he's a turnover machine. The dude knows how to get the ball out of receivers' hands after the catch. He knows how to play the football in the air. Really big fan of his game. I'll throw a shout-out to my guy, Jermaine Waller from Tech. Got a chance to interview him a couple weeks ago. A guy that's a legit, 6'1", 6'2". I think he's going to come in at like 6'1". And I was told that he's going to run in the low 4.4s. So you look at a guy with that type of length and run low 4.4s, a guy that you're probably going to get on day 3 of the draft. There's some upside there. He played a little bit of nickel too this year, which I think shows some of that versatility that you're looking for as well. So, I mean, there's a ton of good players, good prospects. I'm trying to think about if I missed anybody that was on my list.
You'll be tweeting people out in 25 minutes. Like, this guy also was not on the sleeper list.
Max Mitchell.
Max Mitchell. Yeah. True.
He had a good Senior Bowl, or he had a solid Senior Bowl. I wouldn't call it necessarily good, but I do think that he has some tools to be like a developmental tackle at the next level. I think the running back class, you mentioned Brian Robinson. I think we're both in agreement that he's a perfect kind of handcuff to Najee Harris. Maybe not, you're not looking at a thunder and lightning type scenario. They're both kind of similar players, but, I do agree that Robinson's a good player. I will also point out Rashad White from Arizona State. That's a guy that I really like, just a really solid back, can catch the ball out of the backfield, can make people miss. I definitely think he's a 1B type of running back at the next level. So if the Steelers want to grab somebody, maybe early game 3. I think that makes sense.
I think White is going to be way too high by the end of this. I think he's going to test.
He should. I like him a good amount.
Me too.
I've read a couple 3-day mocks, or 3-round mocks, I should say, and I haven't seen his name in there much. This running back class is like, there is no Najee Harris, there is no, Saquon Barkley type, but it's super deep, and it just all these guys do a lot of different things very well. Like, for instance, for me, I think Breece Hall is my running back 1, and he has been for a little bit now. But, I see people with Breece Hall in the 70s or 80s of their rankings. I mean, opinions are going to differ so much. And I do agree, Jason, I don't see Waller and Lane as, similar players, to be honest. I thought Lane's tape was pretty bad. I didn't think Lane was.
Yeah.
But I did – when Lane was getting first round hype, because if you remember, there was a couple of days leading up to the draft where people were saying, who's the one player that could sneak into the first round that you don't expect? It was Justin Lane. That's what scared the hell out of me. Now, I thought where they got him in the 3rd round was fine value. I thought that was fine because you're taking a chance on the traits. You're taking a chance on the length and, the size and stuff like that. I get it. But I think
it was also a terrible draft. The year Justin Lane came in, the drop-off in talent from that 1st round to that 3rd round
it wasn't as deep as a corner class as we've seen the last 2 years, in my opinion.
No, it was. I mean, but even the year before that, it wasn't the year before that. Artie Burns. No, 2 years before that was Artie Burns.
2016. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Artie thing still makes no sense to me. I hate that.
Who was the cornerback? I was trying to think about this earlier today, and I was driving, so I couldn't Google it. Who was the cornerback that was drafted before Artie Burns? Because I know there was 2 of them that the Steelers should have drafted, didn't, because
Xavier Howard.
That was one.
Went right after him, and then William Jackson went right before him. The pick before.
Yeah, maybe it was William Jackson. Xavier Howard really was drafted after Artie Burns.
Yeah, Jason,
Yikes.
Waller does have some good tape, man. If you go back and watch, he matched up with a lot of good receivers in the ACC. I mean, you go back and watch his game. He had a good game against Carolina that I thought was pretty good tape. He had an athletic interception on Sam Howell. He had a pick six against Notre Dame too. The thing with Waller, like I think he would be higher in this class, but he played with a foot injury. And then, he just wasn't fully healthy for a lot of it. And then he gets to the Shrine Bowl. He had a really good first day of the Shrine Bowl and then pulls his hamstring. But luckily, I think that's minor, and I think we'll get to see him run at the Combine. But it's just like I think getting him healthy and him being available could lead to some value for teams at the next level for sure.
All right, so before we head out here, I got a couple of just nonsense questions for you. Actually, one goes back to your sleepers because you talked a lot about corners. So Cam Sutton, only guy starter, proven starter. When you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're looking for a cornerback this offseason, are you looking for a proven CB1, or is Cam Sutton the CB1 and you just need to compliment to him? Because I feel like that's a very deep question.
I think the Steelers' philosophy over the years shows that they're okay with not having that elite cover corner. Like they want to build from the front back. Like they want to build with their pass rush. They want an elite pass rush and their corners and secondary to play just well enough. So in that regard, like if they were to bring back Ahkello Witherspoon, I think that they would be okay with feeling like, hey, I don't have to reach on a corner round one no matter what, because we do have Sutton and Witherspoon. We know we need to add to it, but we feel okay about the guys that we've got. But to answer your question, I think I've preached this for months now. I think the value of having that type of elite ceiling type of corner for the Steelers could take this defense like really over the top. I really do believe that. And that's why I would fully consider taking a cornerback at 20 if the right one was available. Again, I think Booth at 20, I think that's a dream come true. And then I mentioned earlier about Kyler Gordon. I think if you're looking for a guy who has the athletic traits and good film, like Gordon has good film. Washington plays a lot of zone, and I know that's kind of one of my concerns a little bit about McDuffie. Like people have McDuffie in round one. I don't know if he's a round one corner.
Yeah,
but I have more faith in Gordon's ability. When I saw him play man coverage versus McDuffie, I kind of thought Gordon was a better player in man. I thought McDuffie was better in zone. But I like Gordon's ability in man. I think it's translatable. So he's a guy that I don't know if he lasts till 52. If he does, like I said, sub 4.4, it's going to be 6 foot, 200 pounds, 42.5-inch vert. You don't get that very often. And I think he's only going to get pushed down in this draft, probably out of the first round, because of how deep the class is. There's so many good corners in this class.